Hello and welcome to our show, Film Talk with AJ Dean. I'm AJ Dean, your host, and I have the incredible and phenomenal actor, my co-host, Paul Vato. Hey, Paul, how's it in Las Vegas?
Oh, it is cold and rainy, but I've talked to my family back home in Chicago. Sorry, Chicago, and it is much worse there. So I'm okay with a little rain. I was actually in the hot tub. I don't know, yesterday or the day before. We have a jacuzzi here in the condo association, and I was like, I can't believe that this is winter. And I'm walking back and forth from the condo to the jacuzzi, just topless. Calm down, ladies. But I'm like, I can't believe that this is winter. So I'm not going to complain about a little rain, which I know LA got a lot of rain today as well. So yeah, Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. Thank you so much, Paul. And you know what? Speaking of a new year, we have a fantastic VIP guest in the building. I know you were looking forward to this wonderful gentleman, and so was I. Let's give a warm welcome to Jerome Courshon. He is the founder of Lionheart Distribution. He's a producer and writer. He's also been an actor, and we're going to talk to him about that as well. Welcome, Jerome. So happy you are here. How are you?
I'm great. Pleasure to be here. Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Paul. And I'm from Chicago, too, originally.
Thank you for pronouncing it right. Yeah, I'd hate to have some of those jagoffs give us a prize, especially from over by the south side, so.
Yeah, the pot is on the stove, and I'm waiting for it to get hot. So then.
Thank you. It's music to my ears, really. I mean, so just probably the best accent in the world. So, there it is, Chicago. Where did you grow up? If you don't mind my asking.
Or Chi-Town, as we later came to call Chicago. I don't know if the people there still refer to it as Chi-Town, or the Chi. Yeah, I grew up in a south suburb called Park Forest. And sure. You know where that is, or you're familiar with it. Mm-hmm. And grew up there and lived there pretty much my whole life until I left for college. Well, then I spent 2 years in Chicago itself, in the city, attending Loyola University. And I love Chicago. I love the city. I love the food. It is among one of the best cities for food in the world, in my opinion. It rivals New York. And I don't just mean pizza. All the food rivals New York, in my opinion. It's much better than LA as an aggregate. You can walk into a corner bar, a saloon for a beer, and they'll have burgers and other things on the menu. And those burgers used to be better than anything you could get in LA.
100%. 100%. You don't get to be my size by not liking the food in Chicago. Are you familiar with the Oberweis family, or the Oberweis ice cream and milk delivery?
Yes.
So for those that don't know, in Chicago, there's this great company called Oberweis Dairy. And my first business was I owned Oberweis Dairy of Geneva, which was in Geneva, Illinois. I grew up in Aurora, Wayne's World. But my first business was Oberweis Dairy of Geneva. It was a ice cream shop, a gourmet ice cream shop, but we sold the milk in glass bottles. When I bought it, I was I don't know, 23. When I bought it, I was 200 pounds. When I sold it 7 years later, I was 300 pounds. Wow. Because this ice cream is so, if you've had Oberweis or their home delivery, you know how amazing it is, at least the way it used to be. I don't know. Hopefully it's still the same. But it ruined, in a way, it's been a blessing because it's ruined other ice cream for me, because I really can't have any other ice cream because that was so good. It was 20% butter fat. So of course it was delicious. But yeah, I gained 100 pounds in 7 years just from, oh, here, let me make you a milkshake according to those big schooners with a pirouette cookie.
Yeah.
Yes. And then, if they're taking it to go, it goes into their styrofoam cup. They leave, And I'm not even a big fan of chocolate, but I didn't care. I'd be like, oh, you know what? Let me clean this up. Let me finish it. Boom. There you go. I didn't realize how many calories were in eggnog, and we had the best freaking eggnog. So I would slam it by the pint or the quart or whatever, because hey, I'm paying wholesale for it. Why not? And it's delicious. And then my ex-wife was like, she goes, that was probably like 1,000 calories that you were drinking. Just that. I'm like, yeah, I figured it out later when I started learning about health. So.
Oh, Paul, we're glad that you're here and you've gone through that experience. And there's a lot of Italians in Chicago. So that's what I love about it, because I'm part Italian. Of course, I'm going to love the pizza aspect of it. But let's jump right into Lionheart Distribution. Now, this is Jerome's brand new company, and he's the founder of it. So I want to ask you, why did you form it, Jerome? And what sets it apart from other distribution companies? What are your services, and how do you help filmmakers?
Sure. So I've been on operation now for 6 months. And I think the first part is, before I get into why I'm different, why did I start this? Basically because I've been in the distribution space for 20 years, roughly, maybe even a little bit longer, with my first movie when I was working on, looking for distribution for the first movie that I produced. And so for the past 15 years, I've actually this has been my living, so to speak, of working with producers and consulting with them on distribution for their movies, to get them into the marketplace, to have success with them, because it's a labyrinth and a minefield, a literal minefield, where if you step on a landmine, it could kill you, meaning it kills your movie. Your movie's just, screwed. Or maybe it takes off a leg, so it's going to be painful, but you're not dead. Your movie's not dead, but you're really injured, and maybe you'll make your money back, maybe you won't. So it's a very challenging space. It's always been challenging. It's still challenging today, even with the democratization of not only filmmaking but of distribution. So I was consulting for 15 years, and I needed a change. That's part of it. I was getting a little, not jaded, but just, I need something a little different, and pivoting to being a distributor myself was a natural progression. The other reason is that the number of distributors that I could take producers to, that I trusted, that I felt weren't going to rip them off, or really not give a shit about their film, right? I want the producer to care. I want the distributor to care about the film so that it has its best chance. And the number of distributors I was willing to go to was shrinking over the years, that I felt comfortable with, that I knew would really put their heart into it, or that they would be ethical and not unethical. And I'm like, come on, it's 2020 last year, 2022. Why are there not more distributors out there that have some level of integrity? It's shocking to me. So I think it's a very kind of corrupt business, and unethical business by and large. And I don't mean, I can probably get hate mail from people in the industry about how I'm denigrating the distribution space, but it's where a lot of films and a lot of filmmakers end up not making money or recouping their budgets. Sometimes the film isn't great, and that can be a reason, but often it's the distributor just throwing it out there. And if it swims, it swims. If it sinks, it sinks. And they don't care. Most distributors don't care. So we needed another company, that I think that I could, fill a gap, because there are some companies out there that are honest and have integrity, but it's a handful. It's a handful.
Yeah. So we need you to navigate for us in that way. And that's why you're doing this. So this is so important. It's really rough waters out there. So this is what I'm learning. And now, Paul, you had some questions about distribution. I want you to get your benefit as well. Take it away, Paul.
Well, I'd like to, if you don't mind, AJ, I'd like to continue talking about Chicago food. No, I'm kidding. Of course.
The pizza rules. I'm sorry. Nobody freaking compares. New York is a different style pizza. So when people go, New York's the best, well, for that style, maybe so. Not.
I'm going to invite you onto my podcast so that we can go into a deep dive on Chicago and food and its environs.
A deep dive, pun intended.
Yeah, that's right. Deep dish dive. Yeah. Now, I guess a comment is, you always hear, and I don't think that this should be the case, but you always seem to hear, well, it's your first deal. Of course, you're going to get screwed. And, I'm like, well, why does it have to be that way? Like, I don't think anyone should get screwed from the get-go. So I don't think that we should be going into a deal with that mentality of, oh, well, it's my first deal, so of course I'm going to get screwed. So it's wonderful. Let me first begin by saying that people need to check out your website because it is a wealth of information.
Yes.
I mean, it just from the website itself, and I know that I think you have like a 7-step thing that they can sign up for. So I encourage people to do that. Personally, I mean, I do have, some questions specifically. I'm working with a few people that are looking for distribution that have never had distribution. And I don't want to get in the way of anything, but I also feel like if I'm bringing people together, there should be, maybe something in it for me because I'm using a lot of my resources. But specifically, I have some friends that did a project for YouTube, but it is shot beautifully. It's well done. The host is amazing. But they've gotten like episodes demonetized, but they have a documentary, like an hour-and-a-half documentary. And it's a unique travel show. I know that there's so many travel shows out there, but this is about the weird and the wild of different countries, specifically right now, Latin America, but it can be done the world over. Each of these cultures have different esoteric, weird things that people from the outside might look at and go like, oh my God, like these people fight in Bolivia, fight each other almost to the death. And then the next day they're all friends, but this is kind of like a cleansing thing at the end of the year. So let's start the year again. So I guess specifically, is it your company that helps us get distribution, or is there even a way to get distribution for a documentary like this?
Right. Documentaries, yes. So what I acquire are full-length feature films and full-length documentaries. I don't acquire short-form documentaries. I don't really deal with talk shows. But I would never say no, absolutely not. TV series that are completed are a possibility if I think I can monetize that for the producers. So pretty much full length programming, and documentaries in particular are a challenge for monetization. It's not necessarily, the most difficult thing to get a documentary onto various VOD platforms, right? Amazon, they kind of they cut the cord on allowing people to put docs on Amazon. Although there are some select situations that I'm aware of where they have taken a documentary from a distributor, but they won't take documentaries from the public who goes to them directly, via Amazon Direct. So there are platforms for documentaries. If it's the right kind of documentary, maybe an HBO, or CNN Films or somebody, would pick it up. It really has to be the right subject matter, and it has to fit the demographic of the audience of who wants it in terms of an HBO or a CNN or PBS. And in there, and then what platforms will take docs? And there's still plenty of VOD platforms. VOD meaning video on demand, for those who might not be familiar with that acronym. Most of the public kind of refers to VOD as streaming. So, we can use that word, streaming. A lot of the streaming platforms, there's a number out there where they'll take your documentary if you submit it and it passes their QC. But the thing, Paul, is that a lot of the public, they don't watch documentaries, right? They would prefer to watch a horror film or a vampire film or something like that. So the amount of money that one can make with a documentary is limited unless you have, again, the right kind of doc, and maybe your launch point is specialized, such as maybe you get into Sundance, right? Or you get into Tribeca, or into the Cannes Film Festival in France, or the Toronto International Film Festival, and you get in one of the top film festivals, then you actually have a better shot at an HBO or an HBO-like company going, we'd like to license this for 2 years or 3 years, and this is how much we'll pay you. But that's like winning the lottery, right? I mean, people do win the lottery, and people do get deals at Sundance and wherever else. But if you don't win the lottery in that respect, then again, it depends on the subject matter. I just picked up a documentary this past year. Now, out of the 20 plus films I've acquired to date, only one of those has been a documentary, because I'm very selective. I have to be selective, because if it doesn't make money for the producer, then they're going to be mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
And I will have worked for free as well. So I'll be mad at myself, but they'll be mad at me. And I don't want filmmakers and producers to be unhappy with me, because I think reputation is everything in this industry.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. I do have, and maybe so that we can clarify, like you were kind enough to tell us what VOD stands for, video on demand. There are other acronyms that have more letters, like VOD. Can you quickly name like the top 2 or 3? Because there's like SVOD, maybe
AOD.
AOD.
Yeah, the three big ones are just VODs for video on demand, but the big ones are, and we refer to them as TVOD, the letter T VOD, which stands for transactional. So transactional means you're on those platforms where someone's going to pay an X amount of money to rent or buy your film, right? So, Amazon, iTunes, Google. YouTube movies, $3.99. You want to see my movie? You rent it for $3.99 for 2 or 3 days, right? So that's TVOD. And then there's SVOD, you mentioned. S stands for subscription. So SVOD is Netflix, Hulu, BET Plus, those platforms where you're paying a monthly subscription fee, and then you get to see everything that they have to offer. And of course, it might be entirely free beyond that, like Netflix. I get to watch everything I want on Netflix for one monthly price. Or like Hulu and some others, they might have a tiered system. So you get less ads if you pay X amount per month, or it's all ads. But anyways, that's subscription VOD. And then there's AVOD. A stands for ad supported. And that's your platforms like Tubi TV or Zumo, that's XUMO, or Pluto TV, Peacock TV.
Peacock, yeah.
Amazon Freevee, and those are where you don't have to pay any monthly thing. You just can watch, but you're going to be fed anywhere from 20 to 30, 40 ads for the duration of the movie you're watching. So those are the big VODs, the distinction between them.
And in the subscription in SVOD, is it true, or how does that work? Do people actually get paid by the second, or are they just keeping track of how, just for their own records of, oh, well, this person they watched the whole thing, or you know what, they only watched 20 minutes of this film. How does that work?
Yeah, so it 2 different ways. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about how some of this works. In fact, just on Clubhouse a couple of weeks ago, the room that I co-moderate, was somebody said that they make 60 cents a minute, and I'm like, no, nobody makes 60 cents a minute. You're out of your mind. And he said, well, I have the stats, and he tried to explain his stats. I'm like, no, that's an aggregate. Whatever number that they're giving you, I think it was Tubi, whatever number Tubi's giving you, they're giving you an aggregate over time. And so that's, anyways. So SVOD typically, like with Netflix, Hulu, etc., you're getting a license fee, a flat license fee for a limited period of time, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And then, it doesn't matter how much people watch it. It could play, you could have millions of people watching it, but you don't get any extra. That's what you get for that limited license period. Now, Amazon Prime for subscribers. And this is where it also gets confusing because we all kind of refer to it as Prime. Amazon is Prime, but Prime really means subscription. But Amazon even uses the word Prime to kind of mean it's their streaming platform. So if you are a subscriber, a Prime subscriber, then you're paying a yearly or monthly fee, right, to get free delivery within 2 days of stuff from Amazon, plus all that they have to offer that you can watch as part of that subscription. Now, how filmmakers get paid from that it's a little complicated, so I'll kind of not get in the weeds too much, but the pay rate is based on what's called your customer engagement rating. We call it the CER as an acronym. So based on your CER, which updates every single month, and if you have a very high CER, the highest CER, which means you have to have a 99 or 100% CER, which is almost impossible, then you could make as much as 12 cents an hour.
Wow.
And now they've changed their rates multiple times over the years. So now at this point, it's really pretty low. If you have a CER, and we don't know because they don't publish this, but probably 60%-ish. If you're about 60% or below, you're going to make 1 penny an hour. So your 90-minute movie makes 1.5 cents per view, which is crazy. It's crazy. And I don't put movies on Prime for subscribers because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
At least when you're on the AVOD platforms, Tubi, Pluto, whatever, you're going to make, you can make upwards of 20, 25 cents per view if enough ads are running during the course of your film. And while that doesn't seem like a lot, I have an old movie, a movie that's 13 years old that just made 20 grand in 6 weeks that I released.
Wow.
I don't do a lot of old movies, but in this case, it was very well done. Hadn't been out on VOD really, or very little, because it came out before VOD. So we retitled the film, we did a new poster, re-released it, and that's just one platform. It made 20 grand in 6 weeks on one platform on AVOD. So, I would tell any filmmaker listening, if your distributor wants to put you on Amazon Prime for subscribers, look, you could make some money there, right? It's going to take a lot of views, but you could. But it's better to be on freebie, Amazon freebie. And you can't be on both. Amazon won't allow you to be on freebie and Prime for subscribers. So just tell your distributor you want to be on Amazon freebie.
Am I able to approach Amazon and go, hey, I've got this project, or do I need to go through someone like you?
That's the other challenge for those who want to do a DIY approach, a do-it-yourself approach. You can go to Amazon via Amazon Direct, and you can get onto the Amazon transactional platform without a distributor, and you can get on Amazon Prime for subscribers without a distributor. But if you want to be on Amazon freebie, you have to actually be with a distributor or an aggregator to be able to get onto that platform.
Very wonderful questions.
I hope that's okay, AJ, because I find this so fascinating, not just for my project, but I feel like there's so many people out there that might have these similar questions. So thank you for answering them and going so in depth. And sure. I know, AJ, that we're on limited time, but again, I would
take your time, Paul. Take your time.
No. I would love to dive deeper on this, if you don't mind, on my podcast, because I think it's just so fascinating. And I think people are just very interested in this because it's become a very DIY culture where, we have to, and especially for maybe underrepresented communities, that don't have the traditional access. So I do feel like there's a lot of DIY, but you don't want to get somebody connected with someone that's not going to treat them well and treat them right. So I'm glad that someone like you is here with Lionheart Distribution that can help people and and
let me just add, the DIY space, I call it a space, but it's not a space, it's whatever it is, right? but do it yourself. my teaching. So during my 15 years of consulting, I was also educating, teaching people. I had a course called The Secrets to Film Distribution that I produced. It was a 9 DVD course, over 9 DVDs, 18 hours in length.
What's what is this DVD that you speak of? I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, right, exactly. And at the time, I actually could have gone digital with it, but there was a reason to package it as DVDs, because VOD streaming was not ubiquitous yet. And so, in terms of my teaching, I really am a big believer in some amount of DIY, and I didn't coin the term, but another distribution guru in the industry coined the term hybrid distribution, which was a little bit of traditional distribution and then some DIY, and you put it together and it's hybrid. And I've always been that's actually what I did from day one with my movie before that name even came around. So I believe in some amount of DIY. It's just that in today's environment, your options for really getting onto the VOD platforms come down to maybe 2 or 3 DIY options, where there isn't necessarily a middleman, but there really is a middleman, whether that's Film Hub or Bitmax or somebody else, or Rights Trade or Vueler or whatever. There's still someone that's going to take a piece of your pie, right? So because the platforms just don't, other than Amazon Direct, for Amazon, they don't want to work individually. They don't want to write 500,000 checks. They want to write, 500 checks to cover all the movies, right, to their partners. So it's not impossible to do DIY today. It's very rare. It does happen, but it's very rare for some producer filmmaker to have great success strictly with DIY with their movie.
Incredible.
Not impossible. It's not common.
And what do you think, Paul?
I love this. I could go on for hours with this. A question that popped into my head, like the guys that I'm working with on their travel doc, and I'm only using that because that's kind of the only example that I have. I mean, I have a few other projects, but and I think I know the answer, but because like when I first got on Clubhouse, right during the pandemic or right around that time, they didn't, most of the people that I talked to, as far as acting goes, they were like, oh no, your social media presence doesn't matter how many followers you have. We're just looking at the acting. We're looking at how good you, and then about a year later, they're like, oh yeah, no, social media absolutely matters. If there are two, obviously it's about the actor and the quality of work. But if there are two actors that are even, but one has 1 million followers and one doesn't, they're probably going to go with the one with the 1 million followers. If they're
savvy, if they're smart, they will.
Right. So I think you've answered the question. Is it kind of the same? Because like the guys that I'm working with have like over 1.3 followers on YouTube. They have 2 different channels, because one here and one in their home country. And the guy's already been on television in his home country and has worked with Red Bull and things like that. But you go through their comments, and every other comment is like, oh my God, this should be on TV. This is such a great show. I can't wait to till your next one to drop. And he's been pretty prolific in both doing travel shows, but also funny videos and things like that. So I think, it does matter if this guy like has 1.3 million followers.
It does. I mean, when I'm going to acquire a movie to take on, I'm not really looking at what kind of following any of the actors have, but it's not something I'm going to ignore, particularly when it comes time to marketing. Like if I get a really crappy movie, but it's got this incredible following, or it's got a famous rapper in it, but it's not a great movie, you know what? That movie is going to make money. Right. So I have to look at it and make a decision as to whether this is something I want to pick up and put energy into or not. I'm very, very selective. I probably only acquire maybe 1 out of every 10 movies that I take a look at. My business model is not one like some other companies who I will not name, who pick up 30, 35 movies in a month. So they're releasing 30, 35 movies in a month. Their business model is just collect a lot of movies, throw them out there.
Hmm.
All we need to do is have one make some money and we're fine. Who cares about the filmmakers, you know? I mean,
Wow.
that's not my business model.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, if somebody's got a following like this talk show people, are they, let me ask you, are they charging per episode to watch, or they're just getting ad revenue from the ads that run during the show?
Just ad revenue. And then one though, and then I think this is really what started getting them motivated, was one of their episodes. And now they're going to take the best of these 8, 9 episodes and make, and I think they might be done by now with their hour-and-a-half documentary. But you know, they were putting it up as episodes, so it's already been put out there. That's another question I think that I have. And then one of their episodes got demonetized because of the nature of the business, where it's not. I mean, I don't think this is what happened there, but yeah, you know what? I think it was because there's this festival in Bolivia, like I mentioned earlier, where people literally, and sometimes there's a few deaths, but it's very violent. But it's a cultural thing, you know. So it got pulled, it got demonetized, and they were like, you know, you can't stifle somebody else's culture or their art because of that, you know. But YouTube felt that they could, and they did. So they are now exploring, like, this should be on a streaming service, or it should be somewhere where because it's not just what is it, just this violence. It's violent, but that's part of this tribe's culture, or community's culture, I should say.
How long are the episodes?
The episodes are probably 15, 20 minutes. And then their full length documentary would be like the best of those episodes, maybe an hour and a half.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, look, I you know, if they want to, you know, come to me or talk to me, I'm happy to take a look at it. You know, and and YouTube, I mean, look, every platform can reject a film if they don't think it's good enough, or it's got objectionable content,
or copyright.
Yeah. I mean, certainly if there's a copyright issue, you know, YouTube will pull it down, and then you have to prove you have the copyright. And you know, in Amazon, for instance, you know, if you can't have explicit sex, generally they won't accept it. Well, it depends on what it looks like. So there are drawbacks for certain kinds of films, and if there's actual death going on, I can understand why YouTube might have pulled that. I'd have to see it, or I'd have to see what they're using in the documentary to judge whether, we're going to have a problem with other platforms too, or maybe not. I don't know. Documentaries can get away with more typically because it's reality. It's not, you know, it's not a snuff film or something like that. Well, snuff film is in theory reality, but you know, it's not like, you know, I'm sure it's not like that. You know,
or it's not like reality TV or something like that. So Paul, that was great. Do you have any other questions, or did that answer your questions? Or
no, my goodness, that's sad. I do. I have hundreds more questions, but I think that really.
Well, I have a few too.
But another question is, are you open? How does someone either get in touch with you? And I'd hate to open up the floodgates, but are you just open to people sending you their projects, and then you know, even if they don't have a relationship with you yet, because you're the guy that then will establish these relationships? How does that work?
Yeah. So anybody who's got a project, again, it's got to be a full-length movie, a full-length documentary, or all completed. It can't be something that they hasn't been made yet, or a TV series that's completed. They can submit that to me via my website, lionheart.la. So it's just 2 words, lionheart.la, not .com, but .la as in Los Angeles. And there's a submit your film link, and people can submit their completed projects via that link. Won't look at short films. I don't handle short films. That's a different arena, and it's always evolving. Well, everything's evolving, right? But that's always evolving, and it's hard to make much money off of short content anyways. You know, like the Shorts channel, the Shorts TV channel, the actual channel for shorts. You know, you're not going to you have a good short, you could submit it to them. And if it's really good or it's won a lot of awards, they'll probably take it on, but they don't pay that much money for it. You'll pay a few phone bills, maybe, a couple of cell bills. But it's exposure. So, for short films that can be fine. So they can reach me that way. I look at, if somebody comes to me and they're a veteran, great. That means the deliverable process will be probably fairly easy. They'll know how to do the deliverables, which I then take in the assets for the film, and then I can get it onto the platforms with the appropriate materials. If they haven't done it before, it's okay. I walk people through it all the time. It's a lot more, it's more work on my end to kind of hold their hand through certain things that they have to do. But it is. So if somebody's a first-time filmmaker, that's okay with me. It doesn't bother me. If the film is good, and if it's good and it's saleable, I'm open, right? And if it's not good, I'm not going to tell you it's not good. I'm probably going to say it's not a right fit for me. I'll be diplomatic.
I love that. I love that. And I love your website too. I have to tell you that it's a phenomenal website. It's beautiful. I was there today. Please check it out, everybody. And there's a process you can submit. There's, like you said, there's a link. You can click on it and submit your film there. And you also offer a 18-hour course. Can you tell us about that? How much is it, and what is it about?
Right. So my course, which is still only on DVD because I was going to put it on digital. I was going to, get the digital files put up so people could stream it. And then I pivoted to become a distributor. So I'm not going to do that now. So it's an 18-hour course. And I'll be honest, probably 25% of the material is now outdated. So, but 75% is still valid because I had designed the course to be mostly evergreen. Evergreen meaning this is the process. This is what's important to sell a film. This is how you talk to distributors. Here's how you make them interested. I mean, stuff that hasn't changed. But that said, I don't really push the course anymore. I've got my new business of picking up acquiring movies. But if anybody wants to look at that, it's a different website. And the website is distribution, one word, distribution.la.
Okay, distribution.la. And then are you open to consultations for a service type of fee?
I was until I pivoted to being a distributor. So now I don't really do consulting anymore. I don't really have the time. I am so busy, which is great. I could literally almost have if I have the time to watch them, and I would do all the reviewing of the movies that come in myself. I don't farm it out to a secretary or someone else. There are a lot of companies that do. So I could spend 2 hours every day, because I have a number of films that are waiting for me to review them.
So you're hands-on. This is what makes you different from other distribution companies. You're the go-to, you're the point to person. You are it, right?
I'm very hands-on. I do I do a lot of this myself. I do have vendors that do different things for me as needed. If the poster isn't right and the filmmaker can't get the poster right, and by the way, the poster is one of the most important things.
Yes.
It's even more important than the trailer today.
Yeah.
And it's more important than the movie. So if the poster isn't right, then, and the filmmaker can't do it, doesn't want to do it, is stuck, then, I have a vendor and I'll go to the vendor and I'll say, I need a new poster. Here's shots, here's pictures, here's what I have in mind, or why don't you figure something out and come back to me and show me what you got.
And I totally agree. And that's why I wanted to mention this beautiful logo that you created, Lionheart Distribution. Look at it. It's a lion on a red heart. It's phenomenal. I love the colors and how you designed it, and it's going to be a great success. Paul, what were you going to say?
The importance of this, and of course, coming from the world also of YouTube, of the thumbnail. I think is just so important because, a lot of people are just, you're watching stuff on your phone. So not only does it, you have to realize that you can't put little tiny writing all over it because you're not going to see it on your phone. It has to, like AJ said, like your line heart distribution, boom, it pops, it's there.
It's gotta pop, it's gotta be there. And in fact, so one of the posters I sent to you guys might be, I don't know if you want to show that, but it's an example of that wasn't the original poster. So it's the one on the right side of the screen, The Curse of Abigail Proctor. That is the size. What we're seeing on the scroll depends on what somebody's looking at this, but on my laptop here, that's the size that I'm going to see it on Tubi on my laptop, or roughly the size on a TV screen. It would be smaller on a phone. And so it's got, the posters today for streaming platforms really need to communicate something, one thing immediately.
Yes.
Right? And now you'll see now the distinction here, the bottom half, there's something going on there, and it's got a red filter on it. Most people look at this go, what? I don't know what the hell that is. What's going on there? Well, you know what? You don't have to know what that is, but you can see a beautiful woman on the front, and her expression is visible.
Yes.
And it goes along with The Curse of Abigail Proctor. So you're telling me, hopefully we're communicating this. This is a thriller.
Yeah.
It's a genre film. And, and if you're looking for a genre, and the people out there, scrolling through their remote or whatever, they want to watch something, they're going through the thriller, and they see that, oh, what's this?
Yeah, she's got a look of shock on her face. It's perfect emotion.
Yeah.
It's such a great poster.
Thank you. So, it's really important. Now, in contrast, the one on the left, Showdown in Yesteryear, that, could be a little more challenging at its current size. I mean, as a big poster, it's great. But when it's really small, well, all right, you can kind of tell it's a Western, right? Showdown, guns, okay, it's some Western maybe. It's actually a time travel movie and a Western, both. It's kind of a blend of time travel and Western.
So that's the clock behind it, right? The vintage clock?
Yeah. Okay. So, probably, even though this poster is technically finished, we'll probably increase the size of the title, Showdown in Yesteryear, so it's bigger. And older folks don't have to squint and go, what?
Right.
So it's things like that we have to be aware of today.
I'm doing this the whole time right now. I'm like, wait, what is that? Is that show? Oh, got it. Okay. Yesterday? What's going on? No.
Is that Showboat? No, it's Showdown.
Showboats of Yesterday. All right. It's a wonderful project.
Yeah, and they're both, and these are two films that I've picked up, and they haven't been released yet. They'll be released this spring, but they're both really very extremely well done films. The Curse of Abigail Proctor doesn't have any known actors in it, but the actors in it are freaking great. And the one on the Showdown in Yesteryear on the left, mostly unknown actors, but it does have Vernon Wells in it, who plays the heavy bad guy, and he's great. For those who know who Vernon Wells is, and it's an excellent, well done film as well. It's actually, if it was just a Western, I'd say it's a hell of a Western, but it's also time travel. So
time travel, and I love it. And you're absolutely right. They are great posters, and they look beautiful. They're both very different, and this hits out of the ballpark your point, Jerome, on how important it's like. You have to have it like remember how the movie studios used to do it? I mean, they'd have the stars on there, they'd have an artist doing it, rendering it, and you've got that same wonderful quality here. So there's that professionalism. It's worth that investment, isn't it, Jerome?
Absolutely. And and it really is important to have somebody good do your poster. I see a lot of filmmakers, they want to do their own poster, or they've run out of money making their film, and now they're doing the poster themselves, and they're just pulling screenshots from the film and mashing them together in some way, and often it doesn't really work. A
Yeah.
lot of people don't understand. You have to communicate genre. Look, you got to communicate genre as best you can, and intrigue, and try to keep it as simple as possible. I have a film right now that I've just acquired. The poster does it. It's not a bad poster, but it's got like literally 10 different things happening on it. And it doesn't work, especially when it's small. People go, it just looks like a mess, a jumbled mess. So we're going to just have 4 actors on the cover, and then some kind of graphic, and it'll just communicate very clearly. Oh, this is a film and it's got fighters in it. It's kind of a fighting film, a street fighting film, right? So
Yeah, that
we
sounds
have to
good.
communicate to the audience that wants to watch it. This is underground street fights, and that's part of the plot of some of the characters, and that will appeal to that audience, right? If
Right.
we don't communicate that, then people just go, I don't know what that is next, right? Because human beings are on automatic, basically. We are just looking for something that catches our eye when we're looking for something to watch, and we're scanning. Like, it's what I do. We scan, something catches our eye, we stop. What's that? We think, what's that? And then we read the little description. Oh, okay, well, and either we're sold right
Yeah.
then and we start watching it if it's free, or if we're not sold, we might keep looking, but then we might come back to that. So, because people will only look so much, right? When they want to watch something, they're not going to spend an hour looking for something, right?
True.
And if you're looking through listings alphabetically, you're not going to get beyond D probably before you found something to watch. So you got to catch them, as best you can with the poster so that they will stop and go, okay, do I want to buy this or watch this?
Beautiful example, and they're very vivid. Don't you think, Paul?
I love it. It's again, we could do a deep dive on just the thumbnails or posters, movie posters, and things like that for streaming services, because it's so important. You're right. You gotta get their attention. YouTube is the same way. You're competing with so many people that you can't almost just do a screen grab. You've got to doctor it up. You've got to get people to click on your project, to click on your movie.
Yeah.
How and I mean, if you'd like to answer this, if not, no worries, but how do you get paid, or what does that look like if you take on a project? How is there a split? Is that negotiable, or how? If
Right.
if you'd like to talk a little bit about that, I think
right. So I only make money if the movie makes money for the producer. I'm not one of those distributors who charges a fee. I don't charge anything up front, and I don't even charge a fee to handle the movie. And there are a number of distributors out there that charge 5,000 or 7,500 or 10,000, and they call it can be called different things. Sometimes it's called a recoupable expense, and it's a clause in the contract that they can recoup up to whatever 5,000, 10,000 to handle your movie. So that's profit, that's revenue that they're taking off the top from your movie. Now that's not corruption. If you agree to that, you're agreeing. If you sign the contract and you agree to it, then you've agreed to it. So that's not dishonest. I don't think that's the most ethical way to run business, but I understand why distributors do it. There is a lot of work that goes into working with a filmmaker, getting the assets, reviewing the assets, the deliverables, redoing things if they have to be redone, like the poster, the trailer. So there's a lot of work I spend a lot of time on each movie, and I'm working for free. So, which is why I'm very selective, because I got to believe that movie's going to generate decent revenue, at least to compensate for all the time and my ability to keep the lights on. So,
Yes.
So my split is my distribution fee is lower than most distributors out there. I could say what it is here, but I started out low, and I basically made a commitment to myself that for the first year and a half, it's going to stay at a very low level, and then it might go up, at the end of 2023. I don't know. We'll see. And if it does go up, then I will be at the level that some other distributors out there are at. But right now I'm a little lower because, I want that to be an incentive.
Yeah.
People come to me with all levels of films. I just signed a contract today. Just got a contract signed today, and I have a movie now with Tara Reid in it.
Congratulations, Jerome. That's wonderful.
Did you meet her on Clubhouse or?
No. How did they find me?
Hi, Tara. We love you.
We missed you on Clubhouse.
The producers, I forget how the producers found me. They found me somehow, and then we started talking, and we had several meetings. So
phenomenal.
I mentioned
so great. Well,
all levels of film. So I'm willing to handle films that are at a higher level, as long as the producer understands, as long as I know what the producer is aiming for, and that I think I can meet that, right? So films with names are great. I will look at those, and they're a good shot usually to generate revenue.
That's the pedigree, right? That's
exactly. Exactly. Something I talk a lot about in my history about pedigree for films. And then I will look, and then I have a number of films. I'm looking at my board right here. I have a number of films that don't have any names in them. That's okay. I mean, but if I think it's a good film and I think it can make money, that's fine.
Yes, a good story.
Oh yeah.
I have a wonderful question about making films. Now, I recently watched Journey to Sundance, 2014, that you were associated with. You were the co-producer and the story editor. So let's talk about this. I watched it. It was very interesting. It was kind of a roller coaster ride. Very, very interesting story. Of course, the journey of an independent filmmaker to Sundance and with a team. Now, I wanted to ask you, will there be an updated documentary of that? And my second question is, would you consider doing a distribution movie, you, Jerome, from concept to Sundance or concept to Tribeca?
Okay. So the first question is there going to be a follow-up to Journey to Sundance? And I would say probably not, because the filmmaker, the guy behind it, the director, writer, director, producer,
Julian.
Yes, it was a kind of a passion project for him. He spent over a decade making it. I think 13 or 14 years, but is about what it came in at, because he'd work on it and then maybe he'd have to go, work a job for a while and, make some money and come back and work on and then he went to Sundance every year, or one of his team members did for a number of years, as you know. So,
and Robert Redford was in it, Robert Redford's wife.
Right.
Just amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely, I think it's an interesting film. I got involved. Long story short, he kind of corralled me to work with him a few times. God, I don't know, 10 years ago, or maybe even a little longer. And then, he'd keep coming. I knew him, so he'd be like, "Hey, I've got a new cut of the film," or whatever. And so I did so much. I ended up doing so much work with him for free that that's why I am listed as a co-producer. And also I did help. The story was a mess back in the early days, and we had to really, really refine. Well, what's the story you're telling here? How are we telling the story so that the audience will follow along, as well as learn and be enlightened by things that go on. So, it was a tough film. It was a tough documentary to make for the filmmaker.
Incredible, though. And I understand that editing is so important. It's an example of how editing can make the success of any film. So with that in mind, would you consider personally doing a distribution movie in the future? Have you got any yearning for that at all, Jerome?
You mean like so do you mean like like a movie about distribution, or do you mean like somebody's journey from starting, writing a script to making the movie to finding their way through distribution?
The second one, a very inside, behind the scenes, all the way up to Tribeca, or all the way up to, cons, that kind of thing.
No, I don't think that sounds interesting to me.
Okay. I just want to.
The first one, The first one might be interesting. In a world of distribution, there is one man who's at the top of the list. Yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because for my very first movie that I shot in the 1990s, it took me 10 years, and this is before right before the digital revolution show. So I shot my first movie as a producer on 35 millimeter film, and because of that, it was so expensive. I mean, it is expensive, but back in the 90s and before, you had to have money to make a movie unless you were shooting on 60 millimeter, but then the quality usually wouldn't be there. So it took me 10 years to get from shooting to distribution with Warner Brothers. 10 years.
How did you get into Warner Brothers?
And let me just say, it was hell. It was hell. It wouldn't have been hell if I had waited until the digital revolution, but nobody knew that was going to really happen. I mean, maybe the insiders knew it was coming, but so it was hell, and I don't want to relive that.
Okay. But you did it. You did the groundwork. You did the manual, basically boots on the ground, right, every step of the way. This is amazing, isn't it, Paul? What do you think?
I love it. Yeah. It's and it's great to have someone that has been around since the 1900s, having worked. Sorry, I made you sound like you're 150. No, but someone that's worked since the 1900s and has now seen this progression of where the industry has been, where it's going. But it's great though that you've taken all this and you're making a very ethical company, because we don't know. We might be. You can't know everything, and it's tough enough to be for example, a first-time filmmaker, and you're like, wow, I can't believe I dodged all these landmines, and I've made it. And then you end up just getting screwed on the distribution. I mean, what a horrible taste that's going to leave in your mouth. And I don't ever want to do this again. So thank you.
And I did hit some landmines in my journey on the first movie, but there were landmines that only took off a finger or a toe here or there. It didn't kill my project and kill me. But so I don't know. I was probably lucky in some respects.
It's like you're missing a few. You're missing a few fingers.
I only lost 2 fingers, folks. I only lost 2 fingers.
I only need this to hit the record on the camera anyway, so I'm fine. It's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so funny. We talked about AOD and SOD and all of that, and AMD. No, I'm just joking. But how has COVID changed the landscape, Jerome? The landscape of the film distribution and the streamers, like we said, since COVID, it's all changed up and gone upside down.
Right.
How is it now?
Yeah. So, the interesting thing, I think one of the most interesting aspects of change in the distribution space is what happened with COVID. Obviously, we all hated that COVID happened, and it's still going on, but what happened was, because of the economic strain it put on 2/3 of America by getting furloughed or having to stay home and not being able to work, people who were willing to pay $3.99 to rent, a couple movies a week or a movie a week, they're like, we got to cut back, right? So Netflix subscriptions grew. So SVOD was already growing and continued to grow, but then the pandemic happened. People were like, well, let's get Netflix. It's $12-13 a month, and we're gonna just have to stop spending $3.99 to rent something, or $5.99 on iTunes. We got to stop renting. And then AVOD exploded as well, because I can watch this for free, and I'm gonna have to sit through ads. But you know what? America is used to it because of broadcast TV and certain cable channels. We grow up watching commercials and movies, so it's not difficult for the public to accept that. Some of us, me, I don't really want to watch ads in a movie. I'll watch them. If I'm recording something on my DVR or whatever, I can fast forward through the commercials. But a movie, I really don't want to be stopped by 6-7 segments of commercials. So I don't love AVOD personally for watching. I just love it because it's really making a lot of money for filmmakers. And so AVOD exploded and it hasn't abated. And so the viewing really migrated from SVOD, from TVOD to SVOD and AVOD. And that's really the big change that's happened over the past few years.
Is that going to be in the future too, Jerome? Is that what you see?
I don't think AVOD's going away because most of the AVOD platforms were owned independently, and right before the pandemic started, or right when the pandemic started, the writing was on the wall and they were all gobbled up by the studios.
Yeah.
So the major AVOD platforms are now owned by the movie studios, and they're a cash cow.
Yeah, they're going to hold on to that. That's great revenue, isn't it?
They're not gonna kill their golden egg or their golden goose, at least not in the foreseeable future. So, and it's the way to monetize older films as well, right? So, you look at some of these platforms, this movie came out 20 years ago. It's free with ads.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I never saw it, or I loved it. I'm going to watch it again, and so it's like that example of the film, that 13-year-old movie that I released that probably most people never heard of it or saw it. So it's a brand new film to them. And,
what's the name?
Well, I'll tell you privately, but happy to tell you, but I already said what it made in 6 weeks, so I can't publicly disclose the title.
Okay.
Or I can get in trouble.
Okay, of course. Thank you so much. And we totally understand on that.